Well, new questions today over whether the attacks on our consulate in Benghazi, Libya, that attack was part of a larger offensive that day from Al-Qaeda, one that involved no fewer than 4 separate attacks on and around September 11th. Thomas Joscelyn is a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. He did this research. Tom, so you work for a nonpartisan think tank that focuses on counterterrorism issues, and you're saying we're focused so much on Benghazi in this country, but we're missing the bigger picture. Describe what that picture is.
Well, remember, the original story was that the attack in Benghazi started as a spontaneous violence in response to this protest against the anti-Islam film. The new narrative that you see coming out of the intelligence community is that that's not true. There was no protest in Benghazi, but the violence was a result, the terrorist attack was a result of a protest earlier that day in Cairo. What I'm saying is if you start to investigate that protest in Cairo, you see Al-Qaeda's fingerprints in that protest as well.
And not just in Cairo, but where else?
Well, after the events of September 11th, there was an assault on our U.S. Embassy in Yemen on September 13th, and an assault on the U.S. Embassy on September 14th in Tunis, Tunisia.
And these had connections to Al-Qaeda as well?
What I'm saying is you can find specific individuals with known ties to Al-Qaeda who are involved in all 4.
Why? I mean, for any particular reason other than they just generally hate us?
Well, I think this goes to the larger point of what Al-Qaeda is trying to accomplish. Remember, on September 10th, right before this all began, Ayman al-Zawahiri, the emir of Al-Qaeda, released a video in which he was talking about how Al-Qaeda's ideology is alive and how people need to take revenge for this top Libyan operative of Al-Qaeda who was killed. Flash forward just one day later to September 11th. His brother, Ayman al-Zawahiri's brother, is leading the protest in Cairo against the U.S. Embassy, and we have a terrorist attack in Benghazi. And what you see is that this is part of Al-Qaeda's larger narrative, that their ideology has not been killed by the Arab Spring, but is alive. That's part of what this is all about.
Does it show a level of command, a level of control that we have been led to believe by some Al-Qaeda no longer possesses?
Well, you can't prove that. I mean, none of us are in the room with Ayman al-Zawahiri when he's talking about these matters, so we can't prove that there's a level of command and control. What I'm saying is you can deduce, based on all these facts, and there are a lot of them, that Al-Qaeda was involved in these 4 separate instances.
How does it square with what we were told by the UN Ambassador Susan Rice and others, that Al-Qaeda's on its heels, it's been decimated, I think was her word? How does it square?
Well, I think that's really a point that this all gets to, is that, you know, Ambassador Rice was on TV talking about how Al-Qaeda's been decimated and basically it's a spent force. The president, the vice president, others have made this claim as well. What I'm saying is, no, Al-Qaeda's evolved, and they've changed, and they've mutated given the events of the Arab Spring. And these 4 separate assaults show that. We see now how Al-Qaeda's evolving. They're showing their cards about how they are actually sort of mutating into this new threat against us.
How would you describe the new mutation? I mean, what are they today versus what they were?
Well, a big part of what they're trying to do right now is, remember, their brand, the Al-Qaeda brand, has been hurt in the Muslim world because of the indiscriminate violence against Muslims. They killed a lot of Muslims in Iraq. They killed a lot of Muslims in Pakistan, Afghanistan, and elsewhere. The primary victim of Al-Qaeda's terrorism are Muslims. What they're trying to do is rebrand and say now that they are now the real vanguard of all Muslims, and they're the ones protecting Sharia law across the Muslim world. That's part of the rebranding effort. These instances that you can see these groups, Ansar Sharia, are involved. This is part of the new rebranding to say that basically Al-Qaeda is defending the Islamic law in the Muslim world.
We've heard a lot of talk about that group, Ansar al-Sharia, which was said to be surrounding the hospital where Ambassador Stevens' body was taken in Benghazi on the night he was killed. And there's been some pushback from, in particular, some folks on the left saying that is not an Al-Qaeda affiliated group. Your thoughts on it?
I would say this about Ansar al-Sharia in Libya is still murky about the details of this. You can't make a definitive judgment one way or another on this. But there was a report that came out from the military in August sent to the Library of Congress that talked about Ansar al-Sharia's ties to Al-Qaeda, and I don't think this can be downplayed.
Tom, thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.